Welcome again. Remember, the podcast is named Carnival of Randomness. And we're on Get Mad Radio and other formats. And very thrilled. And I'd like to dedicate this episode to the memory of Chuck Mercado, who passed recently. Yeah. True gentleman, great guy. And that's all I can say. I can't really say anything. But I'm going to, for introductions, I'm going to turn the mic over to my crypto, Craig. You started with the comic book reference. You're scaring the guests.
Oh, my God. What do I say? Oh, my God. Am I on? Am I on? Hi, is this on? Okay. No, we have great guests today, former classmates of mine from Nazareth College and current players on the Rochester scene. Sax and trumpet duo here, the dynamic brother duo, Bob and John Viavattine. Yeah. Say hi, guys.
Hey, how you doing?
It's good to see you when you have no class.
Well, it was a great show. See you later.
Yeah.
You talked about Nazareth. How did you meet this guy in Nazareth?
Just from classes. We just were in classes together, and jazz ensemble and all kinds of stuff like that. Absolutely. Well, actually, Bob and I were more in the same. Weren't we in more of the same classes? You were a little. John was a little ahead, I think.
Yeah, and we met more often in the student union with the beers and stuff like that.
Yeah, right.
Or hanging out at the Spanish house or the French house or whatever we used to do.
Oh yeah. Those were the days. Mm-hmm. Well, and one thing I wanted to say too. This is you guys really helped me out. You were part of my senior recital, and that was a huge deal to me. And we did a Brecker Brothers song, and I know you guys were telling me earlier before we went on that you were in a Brecker Brothers tribute thing.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
But we did a Night Flight, I think was the name of the song. And I still hear it. I listen to it every now and then. I mean, it was it went on a long time. We had like 11 or 12 people up there, and everybody took solos. And I got a funny story about that, so I got to tell you about that. And then we'll get into some other stuff. But so the next day, okay, we had that big party at my house that I had with Dave McGuire and those guys. And the next day, the head of the music department, which I won't name, I got holy hell from her because she said something to she didn't, not to the effect, quote unquote. She goes, "That was a nice sideshow you put on last night." And those were her words to me. And I just looked at her and I said, "What?" I said, "I did all the other stuff you wanted me to do. I was just doing a jazz thing to do a drum set, and that's part of music, And it was so hard. I had to fight. I would never have told anybody I was going to do that because they wouldn't have let me do it.
Mm-hmm. I had the same situation with my senior recital. I was a clarinet major at Nazareth, and but obviously I was a saxophone player as well. And I loved classical clarinet, but, my heart really belonged to jazz.
Right.
And I'll never forget, same thing. After I was done with all my classical clarinet stuff, I had planned a piece that I wrote, a jazz piece, where I would play tenor. But my teacher said, before the recital, he said, "Now, you're not going to be playing any saxophone on this, are you?" And I said, "No." I literally lied to him. And when I was done... When I was done with the clarinet stuff, I, quick changed the set, got the rhythm section up there, and played the tune. So it's like underground jazz at Nazareth.
Well, what I loved about you, John, you had that whole play by the rules thing, and then you kind of just snuck shit around.
That's right.
That's a little very quick question about
run.
that. I've seen I've had friends who, there's essence and reality about music and music school, and they'd be playing an instrument, and they'd say, well, I'm going to major in this, and they ended up, nope, because it was so different. And the other idea is, like you've mentioned, doing jazz and classical. I've always heard this saying, if you went to a personal trainer, to look at what the trainer looks like, because that's what you're probably going to look like.
Right.
Now, some of it did depend on, if you were really into jazz, but you got somebody who was, really... strictly into classical, was it a problem? Did they adapt to you as a student? Or did you learn something or whatever?
I was very fortunate because I studied with Stanley Galke, who was he played in the RPO.
Yeah, he was cool.
Okay, I have to interrupt for 1 second. Yeah. Bob Galke is my roommate in D.C. and a friend of mine.
Really?
Yeah. And I remember when we came back, we had internships in D.C., the terrifying drive, because he lived in Penfield if you went down the hill, driving up that hill. But yeah, we were friends in school.
So
small world.
That's crazy. Huh? Stanley Galkey.
And he would talk about
lived in Penfield.
Yeah.
He lived in Penfield too,
like being a musician.
Yeah, and he was from Chicago. He was great. Yeah. But he'd always know when I was playing too much saxophone. I'd go in for my clarinet lesson, and it's all about the number 5 reed and the really disciplined embouchure. Yeah. And he'd say, "You've been playing tenor again, haven't you?"
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I sheepishly said, "Yes, sir."
Yeah.
You caught me. Well, I think it's interesting because with these stories, because now every school has a jazz program. Mm-hmm. And, of course, Eastman started it out a long time ago, but that was under the radar, I think. Those were we were like the rebels. Mm-hmm. It's like, oh, please, this is music too. I mean, I don't know what they expected us to play when we got out. I mean, you're not going to be playing with an orchestra most of the time, and but anyway, I think it's great that we pushed a little bit and pushed the boundaries, and I think we're better for it.
I'm convinced now, like if I went to Cameroon, somebody would mention someone I know. Seems like I have that 6 degrees of separation like with Stanley. Mm-hmm. But how did this all start out for both of you? What was like the Siren song sort of like, I really want to play music, and how did you find your instruments?
Bob, you want to...
Yeah, well...
On the sidewalk?
Our parents were very involved in music. Our mom was a piano player. Not professionally, but she was a piano player. And our dad was just a music lover. So they took us out a lot when we were kids, when we were young, to go hear people play around town. The Chuck Mangionis, the Gaps, the Joe Romanos, the Vinnie Ruggieros, things like that. And when it came time to... decide if we wanted to play an instrument or not, then we picked what we have seen and heard, and that was for John, it was Joe Romano, and for me it was Chuck Mangione. So Chuck was my first teacher, my first private teacher.
Oh wow!
And mine too.
Right.
And he actually started me on clarinet, and he got to a certain point with me, and he said, "I can't do anything more with you. I got this friend." And that's how he hooked me up with Joe Romano. We were kids. Yeah. They would come to the house.
Joe Romano played clarinet?
Yeah. I mean, he was a saxophone player, but he could play, obviously, clarinet.
I didn't know.
Yeah. As a doubler. So, yeah. And so we got a leg up on, like, the whole school music system. Because we were studying at age 7.
Right, wow. I know, I got started late. I like 11 or something.
Yeah, when Chuck started teaching me, when I wanted to play trumpet, because that's what he played, this is even before he started honking on the flugelhorn. And he goes, I'm not going to teach you trumpet until I teach you a year of piano. So he taught me piano for a year at Mom's house. And then we started on trumpet after that. And, he came to the house for a long time, man. Mm-hmm. After my lesson, we'd go out in the backyard and throw the football around, play catch with the baseball. He was a big sports guy, too. One day I was chasing him around. Chasing around the dining room table after a lesson. I don't know how we got into this chasing game, man, inside the house. But Mom, remember that big chandelier she had over the dining room table? Yeah. Chuck hit his head on the chandelier.
Oh, man.
He was leaning in, trying to grab me across the table, and he hit his head and cut his forehead on the chandelier. My mom had to bandage him up.
How he did that was a really good chandelier. Yeah, right. It's like there's some secret meaning. There's like a. This is when I hit my head on the tambourine.
Was Chuck a kind of a soft-spoken guy, or was he? He seemed like he would, out there kind of.
Well, there's obviously the stories of him blowing up in rehearsals with his musicians and bands and on tour and all that. Yeah. I never saw that side of him. He was always very calm with me, hugging me, kissing me, always called me Robert.
Wow.
Yeah, and I never saw that side of him where he would explode at musicians or things like that. But
I think all good artists they're picky. And,
sure.
And you know what you want, and you hear stuff, and you're trying to get other people.
Yeah,
to hear
I don't blame him or look down at that at all. I just never. He just never brought that out.
That's great.
I think that's always like that touch when you're like up here too, when there's a sound you want and you're just not getting it. You can't, and I've had friends like people I've worked with, and they get like that, but later on they apologize because they're trying to get the best.
Right. Sure. Yeah.
That's how it just goes. But I have always a story I have talking with Chuck Mangione. especially around this time of year, my mom was just drilling to me about, like, Gene Cornish when he was little, because my mom played bingo with his mom.
Oh,
and I have these pictures of him when he was a kid. And I talked, and I thought I was just going to, when he was playing one of his hog Thanksgivings, I'm going, he's just going to laugh at me. My mom's telling me another story. But I went up and talked to him, and he said, talk to this woman over here, and there's another woman. I mentioned my mom. It's like, oh, yeah, we play bingo all the time. So that's really, awesome. But how did the road lead then to starting to do this professionally in your first, and how did you feel about when you first played live and all that stuff? Because I could never do it.
Well, gosh, we were in bands together since we were, 12? I remember I was like in maybe 6th grade. I even played drums in a rock band.
Cool.
Remember that?
And I was singing.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
And Mark Minetto was on guitar.
Oh, where are those tapes?
We got him on home movies somewhere.
All right.
Yeah. So it was always, collaboration, whether it was jazz, rock, and playing gigs at early ages. It was great. It was really, really great.
Well, I think there was more horn music around then, too. I mean, the pop music had horn parts.
Absolutely.
And they had disco stuff later. And, there was stuff going on, and then all of a sudden it just got nuts, and it became a guitar world, Well,
I remember when we were kids, our parents introduced us to, the big bands. I was listening to... Buddy Rich, and my friends were listening to the Beatles and that kind of stuff, so.
Right. Well, I had that kind of experience when I played with Vic Play. You guys remember that whole thing?
Yeah.
I mean, all during school, I played with this guy on the weekends, and all those guys, or most of them, were music teachers. And I learned a lot about the seriousness and how to get a good swing thing. And I mean, that was a great experience, too. And it's good to incorporate all that. And I think a lot of people miss that. I mean, everybody talks about John Bonham and how he swings with Led Zeppelin, and because he does. And you have to remember, a lot of those guys, Ringo, all those guys, they grew up on 40s stuff.
Right.
And they incorporated that style into the modern stuff, and that's why it was... Well, that's why it sounded the way it did, I guess.
I remember Bonham saying, there's a quote, and I'll get it wrong a little bit because I'm the non-musician, but he said, yeah, you can do the double paradiddle. Nobody knows what it means, but you got to play with feeling to get that. But I just love, like, and I don't think lists mean anything, but so like a Rolling Stone list of greatest drummers, and Ringo was ahead of Buddy Rich, and I could see him rolling in his grave because he Popperville story about when Buddy Rich was on his deathbed and he's dying, and the nurse was like, how do you feel? It's still better than country music. I guess he told Harmon Appice that he met him, and he said, like, you're one of the only rock drummers I like.
Wow.
And I wonder, too, if that's sort of not really a snobbery, but you're seeing, in a way, your form of music and something. Because I know, like, Noel Coward hated the Beatles. And I just think partly, too, you're seeing what you do, maybe being pushed out a little, seeing something end, possibly.
Yeah.
Well, he played on the Muppets, and I think Animal was much better because he could beat Animal. Who knows like that? No, but that's what I think music always, that's the beauty of music for me, too, is it just goes like this in waves, so whatever comes back, and you're always going to have an audience. You know, my dad used to complain about this show early on about how we never played Red Skelton. Get some real music on.
So now everybody can learn from different types of music. I mean, I taught myself in my early days of improvising with Herb Alpert records. Because they were,
I loved Herb Alpert records.
They were easy, the access to the melodies was easy.
Right.
And then, I would learn the melodies and then embellish a little bit the next time around, and then a little bit more, and then a little bit more. And
I learned a lot of drum stuff from those.
That's how I began improvising.
Cool. Oh, absolutely. I mean, I remember when I first started transcribing solos, I would play something that I would hear off of a record, and before I transcribed it, and I'd learn it. But I didn't know what it was.
Right.
I mean, now I think things are so backwards. Kids are saying, they've learned from whatever teacher that, okay, over this chord you can play this scale. But I was I was already doing it. I just didn't know I was doing it.
Yeah,
so I had to kind of reverse engineer what I was doing and put it on paper. And I go, oh, I've been doing that for 30 years.
Right. I mean, I look at a lot of drum patterns, and I like the kids I teach. Sometimes I go, yeah, well, this is what this is. I've been playing it forever, but I never really knew what it looked like.
Exactly.
And like you learn this stuff from the old guys or whatever, and everybody learned from something.
Yeah. I mean, let's face it, the three of us, we can really tip our cap to Dennis Fleischer.
Oh, yeah.
Because
Dennis was
he's
the best.
the one that kept us afloat, and nurtured our enthusiasm for jazz.
The more different you were, the more he liked it.
Yeah, I mean, without him, it would have been, a 3/4 of an education.
Right.
Because, Nazareth, yes, they were grooming most of us to be teachers, but guess what? You have to teach jazz in school.
Right.
And if you don't get the jazz, how are you going to teach it?
Right.
So, thank God for Denny.
Yep. Yeah, he was the best.
He was huge in my development, man. We got time for a little quick story about Dennis?
Got lots of stories.
I went to and John knows this. I mean, I've always been a cram practicer.
Right?
I'm always a cram practicer.
Oh, crap, I got a thing tomorrow.
I was not great at, I was not that 4 hours a day guy in the practice room, man. It just wasn't me. But I went to a lesson one day, and we're playing through this, whatever it was, and Dennis goes, put the horn down. I go, yeah. He goes, did you practice this week? I said, yeah. He goes, no. Did you practice this week? I said, yeah. He goes, did you practice this week? I said, not really. He goes, put the horn away. We walked over to the student union, had a couple of pitchers of beer. This is a true story, man.
Love it.
Couple of pitchers of beer, and he, without berating me, read me the riot act, told me the score, told me which way to go, and it was great. It really, flipped the light switch for me.
I had a similar thing with Lee Stevens. Remember Lee Stevens?
Yeah,
mm-hmm, sure.
I was trying to fake my way through a marimba thing, and he just said, "I'm not listening to this shit," quote unquote, and walked out.
Yeah, and I'm hearing all this musicianship, right? Yeah. And I'm thinking the best I could do was playing those kazoos there with the Holiday Village.
And then guess who had to take summer lessons with him and pay him? Me. So I could get a B.
Right.
I won't even tell you what I got the first time.
Probably what I give you for grades.
I had to work my tail off to get a B.
So
that taught me a lot.
I always think most of the guests we have on here are blessed too, and Greg was, because I grew up in sort of that. I was very lucky. My brother played in a local band, and he exposed me to a lot of music. I remember trying to play pictures at an exhibition, and this time he was in a new wave band, because we had in my high school that caste system, about music. We had I remember in gym class still, because it was all metal and all that stuff, somebody overheard me talking about how I got a John Coltrane album, and I started looking, he's going to be outed, but then I always thought, my phrase, and I always have used the Duke Ellington term, there's just good music and bad music, and I always just I can hear the same thing. I want to hear other stuff, so I get Robert Johnson, and I wanted to ask a question too you talked about jazz, and what would you say is for you? You've heard some of the most out there jazz, and I'll start that. Tom Cohen turned me on to a band called the Die Like a Dog Quartet from Germany. Yeah. This was 27 minutes straight of just going.
Wow.
Huh?
Greg, anything?
Weird stuff?
Really...
Well, probably Coltrane and things like that. I mean, that's probably the weirdest stuff I've listened to. I mean, I used to listen to a lot of the weird stuff. There was a band from, I think they were either from Netherlands or Germany, called Passport.
Oh, yeah.
And they were, real funky and, but they were very super jazzy. I mean, they had, long songs and cool instrumentals. I mean, there was no singing, but I really liked that stuff. And
I'll tell you, when I saw there used to be Bob Shop Atrium songs back at the Village Gate. They brought in somebody called Walter Verbos.
Oh,
he
yeah.
was from the Scandinavia, somewhere he's been on everything, from Sonic Youth. He's the trumpet. He played literally almost an hour straight. You could see the spittle coming out of the horn.
Mm-hmm.
Just remarkable. But I love that stuff. I always say, open your mind, and if you don't like it, don't listen to it again.
Mm-hmm. I got into the hard bop stuff. I like that stuff, Parker and all that, and the faster, really fast stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I learned a lot from those things.
Yeah.
Sure.
But now we've moved along, too, like in terms of your pros. It sounds like you've really been around playing like with a lot of different bands. What have been some of what are you currently doing, too?
Yeah, run that down for us.
Well, currently, I'll back up a little bit.
Let's time travel a little bit.
When you say you've been around a lot of different bands, well,
our stuff.
John and I went on the road with the Glenn Miller Orchestra. John for longer than I, but we went at the same time in 1979.
Wow,
we were both
didn't know that.
We were both playing in a 6-night-a-week hotel club band,
right?
With Dave Cohen on drums, and
wow.
Sally was singing, and Gary Cummings was on bass, and
really,
yeah, John Pelosi and Greg Cash. And Greg Cash was Jeff Cash.
Jeff, yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, so John gets a call from a guy who was on the Miller Band, who knew him from earlier, and said, "We need a tenor player. Do you want to join the Glenn Miller Orchestra?" And the timing was right because this band, it was called Sally Kay and Carnival.
Oh yeah.
We were breaking up like very soon within the time that he got the call. And then it was probably like 4 or 5 days before he was leaving, and I was upstairs sleeping. We were still doing the gig 6 nights a week. He comes upstairs. My parents are already gone to work. He goes, "Get up." I said, "What do you want?" He goes, "Get up and grab your horn." I go, "What are you talking about?" He goes, "You're going to play over the phone, and if you don't blow it, you're going with me on the Glenn Miller Orchestra." I said, "What?"
What a loving brother.
Instead of like, Miles Davis or something.
And he goes, "Yeah, they're looking for a trumpet player that can sing." I told him, you do. I said, "All right." So I'm in my mother's kitchen in my underwear with my trumpet, and I'm like,
"Thank you for that."
What the hell? What am I supposed to play? He goes, "Just play something melody, play a few high notes, and then play something sweet." So that's what I did, and then he's on the phone. He goes, "Yeah, okay." He hangs up. He goes, "All right, you're going."
Wow.
But the reaction you didn't want is hear him snoring.
Yeah, right.
Well, it's funny. The reason that whole door unlocked for me and ultimately us leads back to Nazareth. I had just graduated, and this guy, his name was Ken Brader. He's from Easton, Pennsylvania, trumpet player. And he had just finished Eastman, and he was putting together I guess you would call it a rehearsal big band. So he wanted to know if I wanted to play the lead tenor book.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, you know what, I'm cool. I just graduated college. I don't want to be, why should I do this?
Right.
Blah, blah, blah. But I said yes. I said yes. And we'd play every week. We'd rehearse at St. John Fisher College.
Yeah.
And we even played a couple concerts here and there. And when the phone call came in for the Miller Band, guess who it was? It was Ken Brader.
Wow.
He was already on the band, and he's the one that recommended me to go out.
Never burn your bridges.
That's
and
right.
I'm also a big believer in serendipity and luck, and especially in this business. Mm-hmm. And I have like a quick story about that too. It's like one of my good friends now drumming for Nelson. Remember the band from the Ricky Nelson's kids? The way they found him, out of all things, how big is the internet? He does a Name That Tune on drums. They happened to find one of the episodes in his channel. They liked it, so he called them. And I would always be, "Yeah, right."
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Who's pranking me? Well, he just lost a big gig here because he thought he was pranking us. Mm-hmm. But a lot of it is luck. I mean, you can be really good. And you do, and I stress this to a lot of friends of mine, and I don't like doing it myself, but you got to get yourself out there and promote yourself.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I mean, Dave Cohen did me a solid. He's a great guy. I mean, I remember way back, 1980-ish. So I was I wanted to go on the road. My marriage was dying and all that stuff. So I wanted to go join the circus, So.
Well, you did.
I did.
And
I finally got to the Carnival, yeah. So, long story short, they were playing Holiday Inn, I think. Or the band that I joined eventually was playing at the Holiday Inn. The drummer gave us notice. They asked somebody at the hotel manager or something about, we need to find an agent or drummers or something. Talk to Dave Cohen. I had talked to Dave Cohen a couple weeks earlier. Bam, there it was.
Nice.
And I ended up auditioning, and I went to Europe and did all that other stuff.
Cool.
So, if I'd ever went out that night and talked to Dave,
that's right,
a whole year of my life would have been totally different.
It's like the story from Night Court about how Judge Stone got his job. He was like the 400th person on the list for applicants, but they called it a Sunday. I was home.
Yeah.
Right.
Let's continue your time travel journey.
Yeah.
Yeah, as far as what we're doing now, Well, John was a high school band director in Spencerport for many years and retired a few years ago. And I was a road rep for music and arts back to the Central Music Days, visiting music teachers for 28 years.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, so over the years, with sponsor help from us and, excuse me, and some of our teachers, they brought in some pretty heavyweight people, like the Breckers, Randy Brecker, Wayne Bergeron, Eddie Daniels, Eric Marienthal, cats like that. And we got to, not only hang with them, but learn from them and play with them. And, it's a pretty long list. Too long to talk about. But incredible times for the teachers, the students, the parents, the communities to have guys like that in their schools for 3 or 4 days.
Doesn't it really elevate you too when you're around? That's
incredible.
I always say, don't ever be confident, but be humble. There's always somebody better than you, and if you get away with the ego, get the ego out of the way, you can learn so much if you're open to that, and if you don't get defensive, like, well, I'm great.
I have a quick question. So it's an education question. So, how do you reconcile? Like, okay, most kids they want to play and they're anxious, and how do you encourage them without, like, I know some of the old big band guys. Oh man, it's terrible. You're out there, it's crappy. You're traveling. Blah, blah, blah. They had sour grapes about it. How do you sometimes reconcile the fact that it's good? That it might be a little tough, but you know what I mean. How do you encourage them without?
So you're saying, as far as how do I, paint the overall picture of music as a profession kind of a thing?
Yeah.
Well, even since I retired, things have exploded, in the technology world alone for music. I mean, people are doing, AI composing and, film scoring and everything else, aside from the performance end of it.
Right.
But, when I was teaching, I was just blessed. I had great kids in Spencerport, and I taught in East Rochester before that, and had great kids and great family support and great administrative support. And I tried to expose them to as much of, the music world as I could. Not just, okay, you guys sound great, but, make sure you become a lawyer. Just, there's
music's
no future in music, I didn't paint that picture. I did stress, if you're going into music, to go into education. Because so many people, spend $250,000 on a performance degree and end up, I don't know what, with it. But I did stress, education, and from that, my kids were just so amazing, and you could tell when the kids are coming up, who are going to be the doctors and who are going to be the lawyers, you know, and because they were your greatest players, they were your greatest practicers, the most disciplined kids.
Whatever they went for, they went for it.
That's correct. Yeah. That's correct.
I have a view that I think there are some people out there you could pick who are successful in one field. They have that mindset. They could be successful in just about any field.
Right.
Really put them, because they're going to do, because a lot of it is just persistence, not even talent. And one of the things I've noticed, too, is like you seem both open to every type of style. And have you played like sort of every type of style?
Sure.
I've heard we like the Mambo Kings.
Yes. Well, you have to be, that's another thing I stress to my kids. You have to be marketable. You can't, go into a 10-piece funk band and say, "Oh, I'm a bebop player." Well, I'll see you later. It's a whole different style. It's a whole different feel, and you have to listen to that. You have to be open to listen to it. That's how you absorb it, by listening to it. When I first joined the Mambo Kings, I was scared out of my mind. I couldn't find one to save my life. Because everything's off the beat, so...
No, that's a Latin band,
it's a Latin jazz band.
Yeah, their grooves are wild, they're weird.
And I'm so used to listening to bass and drums for, the pulse.
Right.
And I have to switch my ears from the bass player to the conga player.
Right.
That's where my one is, from him.
Yep.
So it's
interesting.
Very challenging, but it's a great band. And, we get to travel all over the United States and Canada and play with symphony orchestras. And,
to me, that's like one of my happy musics, too, because I always used to make a joke about friends in ska bands. They would do, like, some songs with depressing topics, and I just go, you can't get sad listening to ska. And I can't, Mambo was just so lively.
Yeah.
I'd still be in the corner looking like I was miserable because that's me. You know, I'm not dancing or anything.
Yeah.
But it's so festive. It's just awesome.
Yeah, it is fun. It is fun.
Yeah.
And, you know, we got to record 3 records, and
I have one of them somewhere. I know I have it. I got to go dig it out.
Probably under that bologna sandwich in the back of your
Yeah,
head.
right. Oh, wait, it's under the drink.
That's right.
You know, but then also, I've heard like also you played with like a bunch. I've heard you played with Aretha Franklin.
Yeah.
Okay, he didn't lie to me then.
No, I was curious as to how that happened. That was just a local thing, right? She was contracting.
You know how it happened? Aretha Franklin was, believe it or not, John Nugent had just come to Rochester, didn't know a soul.
Oh, wow.
And he got a call to contract the band. And he called me. I don't know how he got my name and number, but he called me. He introduced himself. He says,
awesome.
I need a horn section and some musicians for this concert. It was at Frontier Field.
Yeah.
So I contracted basically the band, and that's how we worked with Aretha.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
What was that like? Was it...
You know, every performer, when you play with the big timers, they're all different, but one thing I learned is they're all real people.
Right.
And the first time I was playing, when I was on the Miller Band, we did a gig with Patti Page, the 50s singer.
Yep.
And that's how I met my wife, because my wife was doing Patti's hair and makeup. And we did a 4-week tour together in 4 different cities, one week in each city. And I'll never forget, we did a thing with Patti Page and Frankie Lane.
Wow.
And Frankie Lane's piano player, all they wanted to do when they're not playing music is talk about anything but music.
Right.
And I'm thinking, well, why don't you want to talk about like this and that and how
Radio City Music Hall?
They don't want to talk. They're real people.
Yeah.
They want to talk about sports and food and wine and that kind of stuff.
Cutting the grass.
Well, I would think everybody who comes up to him is going to say, well, I love your music.
Yeah.
Because that was always, they said, the secret about Richie Blackmore. If you told them, oh, you're great, he just ignore you. But hey, I'm a big soccer fan. You could be sitting with them for hours.
Yep.
Or like some people, if they've known, oh, I heard you're into muscle cars.
Yes.
You know?
Exactly.
Stuff like that.
Exactly.
Well, then you get more done sometimes, because then you're like, you get to be more friendly. And you can get a lot more done if you're friends than if you're like, oh my God, keeping them at a distance like there's going to break or something.
One of the biggest compliments I got was basically a grunt. And it was from Ray Charles. We were doing, I was playing in the RPO Pops, and Ray Charles was the artist.
Oh, wow.
And there was a part in the show where I had to play a tenor solo, and after the solo, he went, yeah! So that was
well, there's
okay
like a funny thing. I got to know Ian McLaughlin a little bit, and like reading from his book, there's a story about how when he's playing for Dylan, and he's all creeped out because Bob's staring at him a lot. Am I doing something wrong? So he doesn't want to ask Bob. So he goes, ask one of the bandmates. He goes, oh, no, he's really nearsighted. He wants to see what part you're playing. One of those type of things. But all I could think of is just like from Aretha Franklin. I saw her at Toronto Jazz Fest, and it was packed. I'll tell you, they have like some of the best ice cream I've ever had too there in a little car.
Really?
But it was so packed where their playing was like their venue was like on Young Street. We couldn't get near. We're like standing on the sidewalk. But with her pipes, you could hear everything.
Oh, yeah.
But all I think of still is like the Blues Brothers. Got one guy in here, he wants 4 whole fried chickens. The other guy wants some plain white toast.
That's right.
But I try to tell people that because I've known like musicians, met some. They're just people. You know, you get rid of the awe and everything.
Tell them the Tom Bones Malone story.
About Belushi?
No, about it.
Well, you can tell that one too.
Oh, jeez. Yeah, well, Tom was here for one of John's Evening of Jazzes, so he was here for 3 days, and it was during March, right? February or March.
Yeah.
And we had our band together still going called Unlimited, and we were doing a party at Artisan Works. And I dropped Bones off at the hotel, and it was a Friday, and I said, look, man, I said, you know, your gig tomorrow at John's school is, you know, Saturday night, that's all set. We have a gig tonight with this party band that I play at. It's a 3-hour gig, and, you know, I got a couple $100 in the kitty. If you come and play with us or just hang out at the hotel, whatever you want to do. He goes, no, hell, I'll come and play. So he came, we had open bar, dinner. He played the whole gig with us.
Wow.
You know, up on stage with us, and just like one of the guys in the band, man. It's just regular Joe, and it was great. It was big fun. But when we were I carried the PA back then.
Oh, yeah.
In the company van, right? And Harry Ford put this PA together for us.
Oh, God, Harry, yeah.
And I had 2 racks full of stuff. 2 full racks full of heavy shit, and then the tops and the 2 bottoms were dual 15 subwoofer cabinets, right?
Wow.
And it was snowing like crazy that day.
Of
right?
course.
And here's Bones Malone helping me push my cart through a foot of snow in the back parking lot of Artisan Work. I said, hey, how do you like this, man? Last night you're on Letterman's show. Tonight you're pushing my gear through a foot of snow.
Yeah, my 15 minutes of fame.
The music life.
That's right.
Plus, props out to April and everybody at Artisan Works, one of my favorite places.
Yeah,
I always used to call it, that would be like walking into a good acid trip, but I do not know that stuff. But I love, taking people there, too, and huh?
Oh, yeah.
And you go there, but I just love that place. That would be my house if I had the money. So if you guys want to do music fundraisers for me, I'll probably buy Artisan Works.
It's a cool place.
I would say
Very
no.
cool.
Yeah.
But that's awesome. I love those little stories like that. But it also shows the human side of them.
Exactly.
I think any on-the-road thing, again, one of my experiences, I was playing in Atlantic City, and the guitar player from Gary Puckett's band just happened to see us. He liked them. He liked the girls or whatever. He was probably trying to hit one of them or whatever. But anyway, I got to talk to him, and he starts taking me around. He takes me to another hotel, and I met the Mamas and the Papas, and I got to see their show, and I met Gary Puckett, and he was doing a band, and he was the same, he goes, yeah, they just want to hear the old crap. I want to do new stuff. And, he got real. And it's just, when you're one-on-one like that, it's just it just really makes you sit back and go, wow, I guess it's not easy for anybody.
Most of them are like that. We found out. I mean, the guys that we brought in over the years, I don't think we had a bad experience with any. And you hear horror stories about some of the upper level musicians, the cream of the crop. But luckily, especially with and for the kids, everybody that was brought in from my schools that I worked with, they were great, man. They were great.
Those are always the best, having the stories like, wow, he was on Letterman. You're just sliding in the snow.
Sometimes I think the horror story stuff, I think a lot of these guys they start to get weird and they just start sabotaging themselves. They just don't want to be, it's like they don't want to be successful or just they're going to do anything they can to screw it up. And that's like a weird part of the art personality, kind of, it's like, oh, I'm not playing that stuff, that's stupid, instead of sitting there and realizing, like you're saying, John, you have to compartmentalize. There's different kinds of music, and you just drag out the tools you need for that music. I mean, it doesn't mean you can't play anything else.
Right.
And I also think, too, and I'll use an analogy of Basil Rathbone, Sherlock Holmes. He would freak out if kids came at him and called him Mr. Holmes for an autograph. He'd just go berserk. And then he stopped after the 14th. Now, he's still a film career. I would think, how many people out there in that profession, it's like with your profession, would cut off an arm while they couldn't play well, then just say, hey, you have a tooth pulled, okay? Well, maybe you couldn't play well then. You know my point. But how many people would just say, oh, if I had a career like that, and then people love you because you're doing well, so you don't want to play that stuff, and I can see you're on the road 200 days a year, that's the same old song, but for that audience, it's the first time they're seeing you play.
I always think acting has to be a little different, though, sometimes, because you're kind of always pretending to be someone. And I think when you start, everybody just thinks you're them, and it's like, I'm not him, It's like,
But in a way, you might not be
weird,
him, too, either. Like a lot of music, like rock especially, you're projecting a character or an image, and it's not you.
Sure,
so it's sort of, and I've been around a lot of people in the arts. We've had them on the show. They're friends of mine, and I think it's it's not all like one big thing, but they're all sort of in the same umbrella in a little ways. They're creative and the creative mindset.
Right.
We don't really. I mean, I respect engineers. I think they're one of the best people to say. We don't really have them on here that much because I don't want to hear about how you have to get the precise measurement of something. Now, audience members, if you want to hear that for an hour, right in.
Bring your slide rule and come on down.
Right.
So I got a story that I was telling you with Bob and I. So we were in a music history class. I don't know if you remember this. So we were talking with the teacher when we were in the class, and we were trying to, there was some kind of debate about rock music versus the established, legit, classical, whatever. And you and I we were like, look at this album, this band Queen. Look what they do. Do you remember that?
Bohemian Rhapsody.
Yeah. And you and I were like the big banner wavers for this. Like, look, but you can do it this way.
A Night at the Opera.
Yeah, you can do classical and you can do the singing and the interesting stuff. Yeah, and we were, and I think we just blindsided her, man. We didn't know.
I think Bismillah's Arabic. That line.
What's that?
Bismillah, he will not let you go. I think that's
Arabic. Right.
I mean, Freddie's from Zanzibar.
But she let us play it, man. We put the record on.
Yep.
We put the record on.
She liked it. She listened to it.
Yeah.
But I think that's the thing. You have to experiment. What they were doing was so ahead of their time. Which is why I think they sort of like with Hot Space and all that, they were way ahead of their time. That's why people didn't accept it. Mm-hmm. But that's the beauty of music again.
Yes.
So I want to make sure, too, what do you have going on now, like going into good old 2026? And where can we see you a lot of?
Yeah.
Because I always forget this stuff. I don't want to.
Well, both of us, John, of course, has the Mambo Kings, and they go all over the place. And you've got some Rochester stuff coming up, don't you? Or close?
Well, we just played with the RPO.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
We were supposed to play in April, but we got moved to, I think it was November, because the act that was supposed to go in, it was supposed to be some acrobats, and the fire marshal said no because they needed some certain rigging and protection for all their whatever they do. So they put us in there, and they're putting them in April. So long story short, we just did play with the RPO, two concerts in November, and they went very well. Yes,
and awesome. We also play with a local band for parties and festivals and weddings and things called Uptown Groove. A lot of good musicians in that band. Sometimes there's a couple bands out at night and a night.
I'll be looking out for you guys.
Yeah, and we do the Brecker Brothers. It's called the Viavattine Brothers Band, and we do a Brecker Brothers tribute. And it's based around the heavy metal bebop record that they did in 1978.
Oh, wow.
And then we augment outside of that record for time purposes to fill up, time for a gig. But when that thing came about, I texted Randy, and he's one of the guys we brought in, and we've become good friends with him over the years. And I just wanted to let him know we were doing it, and is it cool, and
Right.
And he goes, yeah, man, it's cool. What do you got everything? You need anything? I said, well, here's what I have, and here's what I don't have. And he sent me the charts that I didn't have.
Wow.
For the gig.
Did you? I would dabble with everything. I have some Brecker Brothers stuff, and I don't know what it is, but I remember seeing a certain band. They did a Tower of Power set, and I knew a lot of the songs, but could you elaborate too for the audience what they like? If you were really going to start looking at this band, like what album how would you start, and where would you go on your path?
For what band?
The Brecker Brothers, yeah.
Well, like I said, ours is built primarily around the heavy metal bebop record. And
you have to check that one out.
Yeah, I mean Basio's on drums.
That's a live record.
Okay, I'm definitely checking it out.
It's a live record. So the initial footprint is that record, and then we augment with things like Strap Hangin' from different albums, just things that we want to do, and we may even sling a tribute to Chuck in there pretty soon in that show, and. You gotta like John said originally, listening to this music. I mean, you have to listen to this stuff and become. You can't just read this music. You have to become this music and play like. There's a lot of Tower Power tribute bands out there, right? And yeah, they read the notes and they play and it's stiff and it's horrible and because they're not Tower Power and you got to feel it and you got to live it and you got to be inside of that music.
Right.
Sound like Bruce Lee there. I think feel.
Yeah, with the Brecker thing, it's we have pretty much I saw them live. I was privileged enough to see them when I was on the road with the Miller Band. I saw them at the Bottom Line in New York. And man, that was probably one of the most exciting musical experiences I've ever had. I didn't sit down the whole night. I couldn't. It was just amazing.
You can't sit down. You can't sit down.
And they had a percussionist because most of their records they didn't have their studio things. They very rarely put percussion on. So I grabbed Tony Padilla from Mambo Kings and said, Tony, that'd be a nice project for you to be on, and he was super all about it. And so Tony's playing in the band.
He kills it.
I mean, everybody, there's not one, you cannot have one weak link in the band with the stuff. You can't. My son John Robert was the original bass player. He lives in New Orleans, and it's tough for him to get up here for gigs. Like, we're playing next month in January, right? At the Kaz in Buffalo.
Yeah.
And I'll throw in, he is a great bass player. I've seen him a few times, and boy, he is spot on.
Yeah,
he is a rocker. He knows what he's doing.
He's nuts.
Yeah, he is coming back up in in January to record a new record with this band he plays with here. It's a 3-piece instrumental.
You saw them.
Called
Analog.
I've seen them.
Yeah, they're recording another record in January, but it doesn't line up with our gig, so we have to go back down.
I like to ask this question, too. We have retired the famous fish hook story. You'll have to pay Greg afterwards if you want to hear it. But, plus I get a tip, so everything you give him, I get 50%.
That's right.
Okay.
But through all the years of playing, this is just randomly picking any really gigs where you have a real odd or funny story, something happened, or
microphones are off or something, or
something weird, but you had to get through it, or you went to the wrong venue maybe or something.
I mean, something.
Anything funny, I can't believe this is happening, but we got flares.
Well, I'll tell you, we also do these studio jam things and for YouTube.
That's fine. That works.
and one of the things we did was a tribute to Chris Vidala, Chuck's old sax player. But it happened to be Feel So Good. And I remember warming up before the gig, before we did the recording, the tape, because it's video and audio. And everything felt good. And then we get in the studio and we start the intro, and then it comes for me to come in with the melody. And, I mean, my chops felt like garbage all of a sudden.
Wow.
I mean, all of a sudden. I don't know what happened, but I started sweating because I knew. I mean, I was front and center, and I had to play this, and everybody knows what it sounds like, and one of those deals. Mm-hmm. And I was fighting for every note, just going crazy. I don't know if it was funny or if it was crazy or I was, ready to kill myself. But that was a story that I never want to repeat.
Were you exhausted after that?
Yeah, it was. One tune. When we finished, I'm like, thank God that's over.
Looking back at all the decades too, and I look at Brave New World now, with tech and people change a little bit. And I think 2020 really affected people. Is still playing from when you started till now? Is it pretty much the song remains the same, or is you've noticed a little different with audience? I know technically and maybe travel wise it's a little better and everything, but is it pretty much you're playing? You could be playing in a club in the 1930s, same thing.
Yeah, if you're playing for a group of people that want to be there, it's a beautiful thing. I mean, the one of the bands I currently play with, Big Eyed Fish. It's a Dave Matthews tribute band around Rochester. We were in Panama in June.
Wow.
We went to Panama for 5 days to play there, and it was ridiculous how that came about. But everything fell into place, and we went and we played this highfalutin club for all these people, and they didn't speak English; they were in Spanish. Everything was in Spanish there, but they were hanging from the rafters and going crazy because So yeah, if you're good and you're playing what they want to hear, I mean, yeah.
And remember, Panama hats come from Ecuador. Yeah. Remember that. I read Kurt Vonnegut's Galapagos. I know that. And it's been a pleasure, General. This has been
great.
Fun.
Oh, thanks for having us.
But we want to have some songs to play, so if you'd like to. We're not going to get Greg at his drum set. We still have blizzards going on. So what are you going to play? We're going to play if our maestro tune it up.
Yeah. Do we know what he's playing?
We just surprise the audience, but I think you're going to play 2 songs from the CD.
You said the second song.
Yeah, the second song on the CD that I gave him was another band that John and I play with, Al Ches and the Brothers of Funk Big Band. Al was the trumpet player on Letterman's band for 25 years.
Wow.
And it's basically a rock band with horns. And I think the cut he's going to play is the Immigrant Song by Led Zeppelin.
And I bet he lugs stuff in the snow, like behind a building, too. Stuff like that. Do you have anything?
Bob.
Yeah, and on the flip side of that, I brought something where I'm playing flute on with the Mambo Kings. It's called that old 60s hit called Sunny.
Oh, yeah. That's a great tune.
You know, and they did a good parody of that Mad Magazine, a Star Trek parody, which is really good, too, called Money. But it was really fun, and I always say for myself, I try to be a musical explorer. Please, when you listen to this, if you don't listen to it, give it a try. You might like it, like the little kid in the cereal thing. It's really good music.
That's right.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Yeah.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah. We all succeeded in spite of college. Bye.